Despite the extensive coverage of the event, these are things you may not have known about the fated day of December 7th, 1941. Welcome to WatchMojo.com, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 things you didn't know about the attack on Pearl Harbor. Before we begin, we publish new videos every day, so be sure to subscribe for more great content. For this list, we're discussing various facets of the attack on Pearl Harbor that you may not be aware of. Number 10. American radar detected approaching planes. The Americans had about a 1-hour warning that danger was imminent, but a combination of miscommunication and inexperience prevented the warning from reaching the right people.
Hey, I got a large haze. That's too big to be planes, right?
George Elliott and Joseph Lockard spotted the approaching first wave using the SRC-270 radar. This reached the ears of Lieutenant Kermit Tyler, but due to his inexperience and the fact that the operators failed to mention the sheer number of targets, he thought it was the scheduled B-17 bombers and ignored the warning.
Relax! This flight of B-17's coming in from the mainland.
He was wrong. And this was after Americans spotted and attacked an approaching Japanese submarine. Number 9. The US captured its first POW at Pearl Harbor. His name was Kazuo Sakamaki, and he was a Japanese naval officer. Sakamaki attacked Pearl Harbor in a midget submarine, but it was soon disabled and trapped on Waimanalo Beach. He attempted to blow it up, but the charges failed to go off. He then swam underneath the sub to investigate the charges, but passed out mid-investigation. He was found by David Akuyi and became the first Japanese prisoner of war. In turn, the Japanese struck his name from record and pretended that he never existed, though he was eventually allowed to return home after the war, where he later worked for Toyota before dying in 1999. Number 8. 23 sets of brothers died in the attack on the USS Arizona. Pearl Harbor had themselves a real Saving Private Ryan situation.
Your brothers were killed in combat.
Before World War II, it was common practice for brothers to serve on the same ship. Such was the case for the USS Arizona, which saw 37 pairs or trios of brothers, a total of 77 men. However, only 15 of them survived, with 23 sets of brothers perishing in the attack. The effect on family members was so noticeable that the military attempted to stop the practice of placing blood relatives on the same ship, but it largely continued throughout the remainder of the war.
Which ones? All of them.
Number 7. The attack left an enormous environmental effect on Pearl Harbor. Turns out that Mother Earth was a victim of Pearl Harbor as well. In 1992, Pearl Harbor was added to the Environmental Protection Agency's National Priority List. The major contributing factor to its status as a priority is the massive subsurface oil plume. Current estimates say that over 5 million gallons of oil have been spilled, and the plume is roughly 15 football fields long, although officials have said that it's stable and contained. On top of that, the sunken USS Arizona is still leaking fuel today, at a rate of about 2 to 9 quarts every day. Number 6. A senior Japanese official opposed the attack. Turns out that the Japanese decision to attack Pearl Harbor was not a unanimous one. Osami Nagano served as the chief of the Imperial Japanese Navy General Staff from April 1941 to February 1944, and he vehemently opposed an attack on Pearl Harbor. He and Admiral Isoroku Yamamoto fought with each other regarding the attack, and Nagano finally gave his consent after Yamamoto threatened to leave his position as commander. And wouldn't you know it, not only did the attack fail to go as planned, but it was also widely considered a disappointment. Nagano was later tried as a war criminal, but died from a heart attack before its conclusion. Number 5. One member of Congress voted against war with Japan. After the attack on Pearl Harbor, the government needed to act fast. At 12:30 p.m. on December 8th, only one day after the attack, President Franklin Delano Roosevelt requested a declaration of war from both Congress and the nation.
I ask that the Congress declare a state of war.
The vote passed the House by 110 that same afternoon, with a vote of 388 to 1. That one was the fervent pacifist and first woman in Congress, Jeannette Rankin. Her vote reportedly resulted in hissing from her peers, and many desperately tried persuading her to change her vote. However, she stuck to her guns, saying, quote, "As a woman, I can't go to war, and I refuse to send anyone else. Number 4. Roosevelt almost didn't use the word infamy in his speech. FDR's infamy speech is often considered one of the finest American speeches in political history.
December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
It was only 7 minutes long, but its impact was immediate. Congress declared war on Japan within an hour after the speech was finished, and the public became highly supportive of the war effort, inundating the White House with letters of praise and support. The line, quote, "a date which will live in infamy," has become ingrained into the public consciousness. But that was almost not the case. The original line was, quote, "a date which will live in world history." But Roosevelt personally scratched it out and added infamy in its place. It was a good decision. Number 3. Elvis Presley helped raise money for the USS Arizona Memorial. The USS Arizona Memorial sits on top of the sunken USS Arizona. Over 2 million people visit the memorial on an annual basis, and visiting it is considered a highly emotional experience. And we have Elvis Presley to thank, at least in part, for its existence. President Eisenhower approved the memorial's creation in 1958, but it was stipulated that it be privately financed at a cost of $500,000, or about $4.25 million today. On March 25, 1961, Elvis put on a benefit concert which raised $64,000, or nearly 13% of the structure's cost. Construction went ahead, and the memorial was opened on May 30, 1962. Number 2. The ashes of a soldier's daughter went down with the USS Utah. During the attack, the USS Utah was hit by Japanese torpedoes, which caused the ship to quickly take on water and sink. 64 people were killed in the attack. And like the USS Arizona, the dead remain entombed with the ship. One of its occupants are the ashes of a baby girl. Nancy Lynn Wagner died when she was 2 days old, and her father, Albert Wagner, had taken her ashes on the ship with the intention of scattering them at sea. However, the ship was attacked before he had the chance, and her ashes remain in Wagner's locker to this day. In 2003, a funeral service was held at the site of Utah in her honor. Before we unveil our number 1 pick, here are some honorable mentions. Number 1. Survivors of the attack may be laid to rest at Pearl Harbor. Survivors of the USS Arizona have the option of being buried with their fellow soldiers aboard the sunken ship. If they choose that option, a diver takes an urn containing their ashes down to the ship, where it's then placed under the gun turret. Over 30 survivors have been taken down since the possibility was opened in 1982. However, they're not the only ones with this option. Those who served on the Arizona before Pearl Harbor may have their ashes scattered on the water's surface, and those who survived the other ships may be scattered at the site where their ship was located.
Do you agree with our picks? Check out these other great clips from WatchMojo and subscribe for new videos every day.